This is a case study for the loss of Amelia Earhart. We're going to be discussing crabbing and drifting of an aircraft. Of all the videos I've seen on the loss of Amelia Earhart, I've yet to see one made by somebody who has actually worked high-frequency search and rescue. Those are the higher bands of the frequency below 33 megahertz, or worked the standard search frequencies 500 kilohertz, of which is referred to normally as the AM band or amplitude modulated frequency for transmission of radio frequencies. I've worked both the megahertz and the kilohertz of search and rescue long before GPS that everybody's now used to using. Along with these bands, my job required and involved understanding of the electromagnetic spectrum, dealing with such things as the F layers of the ionosphere, skip, attenuation due to weather-related phenomena, as well as understanding what's called the frequency of optimum traffic, or FOT, which Amelia Earhart would have used to communicate depending upon where she was, where she intended her signal to go, and where she expected to hear back from a distant location. The FOT changes during the day locally as the F1 through F4 layers thicken or decay under solar radiation striking the upper atmosphere. In addition to this knowledge, the author also has learned celestial navigation, piloting, and navigation using aids to navigation, usually maintained by the Coast Guard or other services for marine safety, before taking flight school for private pilot license of small aircraft. I do not have a pilot's license, but I did take the ground school. As such, the author is uniquely qualified to speak on issues related to the loss of Amelia Earhart and Mr. Noonan, while addressing some of the misinformation that the author has seen on television that tries to explain her loss and the mystery that now surrounds the search for her and her aircraft. Most of these TV presentations are clueless, people talking to informed but inexperienced professionals. I don't disagree that she made it to the island where they're now thinking she made it to. I offer an explanation why she ended so far off course. This is Dysfunctional Vet. Alright, let me do some explaining here. This is Amelia Earhart's point of origin, Laos, New Guinea. And she's going to be flying this course right here to Howland Island. Depending upon what the winds are doing, she's going to physically turn the nose of her aircraft into the wind, so that as the wind is pushing against the aircraft, she flies in a straight line over to here. In terms of that pilots would be used to, it's called crabbing. You've seen how crabs walk sideways? Well, the airplane takes off, it turns into the apparent wind, so it flies in a straight line. Now, what I have, let's assume that she's turned into a wind this direction and she's flying in a straight line. Depending upon drift and a number of other things involved with the aircraft, she will still be flying this compass direction, but she's going to slowly move north of her intended target. Or if she's down here and she's fighting a headwind, she may have turned the aircraft like this, so she's flying at this angle, and very slowly over time she creeps down and she ends up down in this area right here, which is where they think they found her. I believe that was called, I'll remember the island in just a minute. Anyway, so she creeps down and she ends up here. When she is on this line of latitude right here, this is where she's flying back and forth. And as I told you earlier, and I've got to check the time that she left, it may have been getting dark, so she would have found the most convenient place to land, and she landed there. I don't think she crashed into the ocean. But let's get back to the direction finding deal. Let's say that she is flying like so and she's going south, and this ship is sending a signal out. She has what's called a line bearing, assuming that she can even hear it. She has a line bearing, and that bearing is going to tell her that the ship is up here and she should be trying to move up this direction. When she gets here, She's getting a line bearing telling her that she should be moving up this direction, and so forth. There is a good question as to whether or not her direction-finding antenna was broken on takeoff. There are a number of reports that you can find with very little effort that say that her and Noonan did not know how to even use the equipment. But that equipment looks sort of like a donut, and you turn this thing and you either get a strong signal or a weak signal. You have a switch that you can flip in there, and that tells you where the signal is coming from so that you can move to that target. If the thing was working, and again, there were some questions to whether the antenna was broken on takeoff, if she used it, if she knew how, it should have honed her towards this beacon, assuming that she could hear it. We need to pause this for just a minute and get into some real serious issues of propagation of radio signals. This is our international dateline. If Noonan is doing his sun sites, he should have a clue as to where they are. And on a sun site, you shoot the sun and you get this line here, and then you shoot the sun, you get this line here. You're somewhere in that triangle. You don't know where you are in that triangle, only that you're in that triangle. So if Noonan was doing the math correctly, he should have had a clue as to where they were. And there's a couple of ways to work this out that's involved. If you want to know the specifics of it, get a copy of Bowditch. It's a 2-volume set, and work your way through that, and you can figure out how you work the thing the day before, the day after, and the day of, and you should be able to put yourself right back on course. That's why Bowditch is so famous, is because of that he did navigating the ship with no sun sights or star sights. So, as they come across the international dateline, if Noonan has been doing his work and he flew the Pacific, according to what I've read, he would know about the international dateline, and he'd be familiar with the navigational math and the change. He should have been able to pick up and move them back to Howland Island. Why that didn't happen, I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate about it. Down here, you have the sun's apparent motion going this way, and you have the Earth's rotation coming this direction. If she leaves early in the morning and she's in the air for 15 hours, it's going to be getting dark, and I want that to be understood. Now let's deal with the direction finding problems.